Last thing I need to do to the pump itself for the Jake Stage 5 kit is install their increased pressure spring for the pressure regulator spring. So you keep the original bump spring, but this purple factory pressure spring gets changed out. And also the kit includes a new end plug with an O-ring for the opposite end. So I'm going to go ahead and install that now. I also drilled back the drain hole, expanded that to 125 thousandths of an inch as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is tear down the valve body. I'm going to be putting in accumulator block-off plate to eliminate the 1, 2, 3, 4 accumulators. Also going to be installing some new shift solenoids, 1, 2, and 3, 4 shift solenoids, as well as the lockup solenoid. These are all new electronics supplied in Jake's Stage 5 kit. But I'm going to tear everything down and then have a look at everything. And then I'm going to work on the AFL repair kit supplied by, this is a Sonics kit. And apparently this should be done for every 4L80E rebuild that's got any kind of miles on it. So I'm going to disassemble it and get ready for the repair kit. So the valve body's kind of set up now. It's clamped down, secured. I took out the 1, 2, and 3, 4 shift solenoids to make sure that the valve body was nice and flat to the bench. I also went ahead and removed the AFL valve. Also the lockup solenoid, got that out of the way. So that, again, to make sure that valve body's nice and flat to the bench, it's secured. So I removed the retainer, spring, and the old AFL valve. So now what I have here is the Sonics reamer that you just place in here in your sleeve. Very carefully. And you want to hold the sleeve with a pair of vice grips so it doesn't spin in the bore, and then slowly ream through your passages until it gets to the right spot. I'll use some ATF, carefully drill through that, and then install the new piece. And you select the spring in the kit depending on which style AFL valve you originally had. And this looks like it was the second design. I'll just confirm that with the instructions. Yes, this is the second design because it's got the longer stem. So I will replace it with a 1.75 inch spring, as it says in the book, or sorry, in the instructions. So we'll go ahead and start reaming that out. So the reaming's all done for the actually letterman valve repair kit. I misspoke saying it was actually a Sonics product for this. It's not. It's actually the Transgo 48 ACT TL repair kit. This is the instructions I got offline from them. So in the kit comes the reamer. I got this from a buddy of mine actually, because he bought the kit because there's enough to do 6 transmissions. So I borrowed the reamer and everything, and the springs. So the springs come like this, and depending on which valve you have, tells you which springs to use. So I have the clip style, so I'm going to use the orange and plain, which is these springs. So these are the springs that are going to go back in for the AFL valve, and there's the new valve. So like so. Once I find my clip, I'll put it all back together, lube it all up good. This is the new oversized valve. You can see the difference between the two valves. And I'll install it. And then I also changed a filter here in the valve body. And there's also another filter here beside your 1, 2, 3, 4 shift solenoids. So you take that out and just get your filter out, put your new filter in, which is, let's see if I can find it here. There's the old one. Put the new one in. So yeah, that's all done. Everything's all cleaned up, and now I'm going to reassemble it and put my new solenoids in and install the new block off plate, and then the valve body should be done. Time for final assembly of the case. I was just kind of pre-fitting the center support into the case, and I noticed that it was a little tight. The output shaft was a little tight on the extended bushing that I drove in. There's a little bit of a ridge, so I ended up just taking an emery cloth to the ridge on the inside of the bearing there and cleaned it up so it spins nice and free. This is just a little bit of assembly lube on the bearing now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the seal in and the snap ring, and then I'm going to flip the transmission over and start putting all the sub assemblies in. Rear case seals in, snap rings in, used the seal driver, drove it in, lubed everything up, flip the case over, and start the assembly. Well, this is about as good as I'm going to get for camera angle. It's kind of hard to film, but so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rollarized bearing in the case with a 20 thou shim. Then I'm going to put the reverse band in that hooks on these two lugs here. And then I'm going to put an the center support snap ring. It's a thin one that sits right there on this ledge with the opening at the 9 o'clock position. Then I'm going to drop in the center support and put in the center support bolt, and then start checking my end play. So yeah, I have the extended case bushing in here, so there's a lip for the rollarized bearing to sit in. And which is right here. I had it soaked in oil. So I'm going to start with the 20 thou shim. It sits over that lip. That extended bushing is supplied in the Jake's kit. Same with the rollarized needle bearing here. So that's in. Next is going to be my reverse band. Which I already soaked in some transmission fluid. Take a screwdriver through the servo hole here. Just make sure that that's in place. There she goes. Try not to hit the camera too much. Then the thin snap ring goes in. Opening the 9 o'clock position there. Then I'll get the center support. Okay, center support is in. Couple quick things. You got to make sure that your center support is lined up in the case so that the center support bolt is basically at 6 o'clock position that goes through into the center support. During assembly, I was checking the intermediate shaft here to the input shaft clearance, and there wasn't enough. I was actually getting contact, and this is an upgraded 300M intermediate shaft, and it was actually contacting the end of the turbine shaft. So as per the instructions of Jake's as well, it says that there is a note that says that you may have to remove 60 thousandths of an inch either from the end of the intermediate shaft or the end of the input shaft or turbine shaft. So this one being easier to machine and chuck up in the lathe, I took it to a local machine shop and had 60 thousandths of an inch removed here. Now I got lots of clearance. So next thing is going to be the beveled snap ring, and then I'm going to start working from there. Here's that beveled snap ring. You can see the bevel on it, maybe, if it focuses. There you go, see the bevel. So that goes in next. And again, the opening goes to the 9 o'clock position. Okay, so I got the dial indicator all set up. I started with the 20 thou shim underneath the roller bearing, and it was too much, so I got a 15 thou in there now, so I'm going to check it again. See if I can do this and not get in the way of the camera. So I'm just prying under the gears lightly. There's 5. Five thou. So just gonna check. Well, my dial indicator is kind of cockeyed a little bit, but you can see where I got these extensions for the dial indicator going down to the mid shaft. Oh, I'm gonna re-zero that now. And I'm moving things around, but there's 5.5, 6 thou there. Kind of hard to see, but. So yeah, I'll call that good. Keep pumping it off camera. I did check it a few times. I was coming up with about 6,000 rear end play. So I'm gonna call it good with that 15 thou shim. Got the dial indicator set back up. Wasn't happy with the setup. Making sure it was perfect. So I ended up with a 10 thou washer. So I'm just prying up on the gear set. And it comes out to right at 7 thou, 6.5, 7 thou end play. So that's good. So I'm gonna check the end play a different way from the output shaft. So I took all the slack out of it, and I'm just doing it by hand. So I took all the slack out of it, and it's at 0. Now if I pull up, six and a half, 7 thou, and then it returns to 0. So just confirming, doing it this way, 6.5 thou. Center support's been put in and torqued to 32 foot-pounds. The new AN fittings. These are -6 AN fittings. There's a longer one. This is late model 4L80E, so it's got 2 different fittings. The longer fitting goes in the back, which goes all the way into the seal in the center support. So that one's in, and the front one's in. Those are torqued up. Now I'm going to start working on the intermediate. So here's the case saver that I ordered from Jake's as well. It just goes on the anchor point there. And then you got to put the beveled snap ring back in on top of your center support. And then I'm going to start stacking up the intermediate clutch pack with the new steels and frictions in the kit. I am going to use the wave plate, and then steel, friction, steel, friction, steel. And I also have the new intermediate snap ring that also comes in the Jake's kit. If you look here, here's the factory one, and there's the aftermarket one. You can see how much thicker it is. And Jake says to install it at the 3 o'clock position, opposite of the anchor point for maximum support. Once that's in, then I'm going to check my clearance on my intermediate clutch pack.
slight modification is going to be needed here. So I have my case saver in that came in the Jake's kit, but you have to modify pressure plate. So you can see I marked it. I'm going to have to cut that out so that it clears the anchor or the case saver. Also, I'm going to have to check once I get my front band in there, I'm going to have to check the lug and make sure there's clearance between the front band and the anchor so I don't have a dragging front band. If I need to, I can clearance this a bit by taking it down. So I'll start with the plate, get that in there, get the snap ring in, and then I'll check my front band clearance and go from there. So the intimated pressure plate, I notched it and put it in. And then I installed the heavy duty snap ring. So there's a little, I just did a little notch. So on this section of the new plate, there was no notch for the space case saver. So I just made a notch like this right there on that pressure plate that was supplied with the Jake's kit. Heavy duty snap ring is installed. And now I'm just checking my clutch pack clearance. And it's right at 41 thou. So I'm going to leave it like that. It's a little on the tight side, but it should be okay. It's in spec. I'm just going to put some air through the center support bolt and just do an air check. And those are good. So next thing is going to be forward band and forward drum. Next thing I'm going to do is put in my forward band and forward drum. And I'm going to install it on my case saver lug. There's a lug right here, which has the case saver on it. And see what I need for clearance. I'm going to get a couple hooks so I can lower that forward drum in. Okay, just decided to take the forward drum apart. Just make it easier on myself. Took the clutch pack out. This is going to probably have to go in a few times. Pretty sure I'm going to have to remove some of the material off of this band to compensate, because that forward band looks like it's going to be dragging on the drum. Yeah, big time. Can't even get that drum down. Just make sure it's seated good. Screwdriver. Yep. Not even close. Okay, I'm gonna have to just grind down that tab a bit so I can get my drum in there without it rubbing on the band. So I had to grind down the tab on the forward band, quite a bunch, more than I'd like to, but it's what I need to get clearance from my front band to my front drum with that case saver that Jake's kit supplied. So next thing I'm going to do is put the forward drum in, make sure it's just by rotating it here and making sure I got all my clutches lined up. I hear my steel on steel, so I know I'm good there. Then I'm just going to check my band through the servo hole. That should be good. So now I am going to put my clutch pack back in and the snap ring on my forward drum, and then move on from there. Next is going to be the forward drum and then the fourth clutch assembly. Now that the fourth clutch pack is in, I'm going to put in the Torx, the new Torx bolt, retainer bolt for the fourth pack, torque that to 19 foot-pounds. And then once I got that done, I'm going to put in the overdrive unit. Okay, so I'm going to check the front end plate. I have pry bar going underneath the gear on the rear gear set. So you have to load it up when you're checking your front end plate. So I'm going to try to film this and not hit the camera, but so you got to load up the rear. So I'll do that by putting some pressure on it. So there's the rear loaded. Then you got to take up the slack of your snap ring on your overdrive unit, which is there. And then lift up to get your end play. I'm right at 10.5 to 11 thou. So not quite double the rear end play. The front end plays, like I said, 10.5 to 11 thou. The back end, the rear end play came in at 6. So it's a little tight, but not too bad. Like general rule is double the front end play for your rear. But this seems to be the closest selective washer. So right at 11 thou front end play. Now that the front end play was checked and verified everything's good, I took the pump out for the last time, put the O-ring on it, retorqued the pump down with the O-ring in, put the torque converter O-ring in, and lubed up the front seal, good to go. And then next thing I'm gonna do is put the manual brake band servo in, and then the reverse servo in as well. Yeah, so the manual to brake band servo, which is right here, that's gonna go in next. Lube up the bore, and then I'll put the reverse band servo in, which like I said, I had to adjust the pin to get my 85 thou travel, and then I'm gonna do some air checks. So I'm going to be adjusting my rear servo band pin adjustment by either shortening or lengthening it depending on my rear servo travel. Now this is how Jake's recommends doing this. So what I have is I have an old servo cover that I cut in half, and there's a gasket in there and it's torqued down. And then I drilled a hole, welded a nut, and I have a bolt running through. So this bolt is just resting on the top of the servo pin. So what I'm going to do is what they recommend is torque this down to 80 inch-pounds. Okay, I have the bolt torqued to 80 inch-pounds. Dial indicator zeroed, pistons all the way down. Now that I've welded onto the end of the pin and I extended it, also ground it down nice and smooth. So now this is the extended pin, so I'm going to back it out and measure my travel. And I just did it a couple minutes ago and came out to 75 thou, or 75, 76 thou. And that's right off. So that's total piston travel, absolute travel of the servo cover. So 77 thou, that's under 100 thou. I'm not going to mess with it. That's good enough for me. That should be, and they're just double checking too. My band isn't dragging, it's just clearing. So I'm going to air check it and call that good. Valve body's installed, wiring harness is installed, everything's torqued down. I went three passes, 50, 70, and 100 inch-pounds to torque down the valve body. Pillow block is all bolted down, torqued down. Loop pipe is installed with the hole down. And then some cable management, just made sure everything is secure. So the bottom side's pretty much done, ready for the pan, which should be here tomorrow. I got a deep sump pan, so hopefully it's gonna be here tomorrow. Other than that, I have tail housing to put on, seal, And that's pretty much it. And then the build is done. So just gotta wait for that pan and bolt that tail housing on. So that's a wrap for the 4L80E build. So that's got the complete Jake's Stage 5 kit in it, with the 300M intermediate shaft and input shaft. So it should be a pretty stout piece, should be able to handle 1,500 horse. My last dyno, I was at about just under 1,000 to the wheels. So with the new blower that's going in, I'm gonna be probably up another 100 horse, maybe 75 to the wheels, we'll see. Bigger injectors as well. That'll be in the next video, will be the blower install. So I also did put on the Circle D converter, and I checked my measurement, my converter setback. So the converter mounting flange to the bell housing, and I came up with 1.027, and the spec for a 4L80E is 1.030. So it's right there, right in spec. So everything looks good, and that's it for the build. Kind of a long build, but it's done right, and hopefully this should be good. So next we'll be putting on the new supercharger, installing the new transmission, wiring up the new TCM transmission to talk to the ECM. So there'll be a little bit of work fitting the shifter as well. So that'll be coming up in the next few videos. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.